Jeremy Mitchell, the Director of Corporate and Public Affairs at Huawei Australia. Jeremy, thanks for your time this morning. First of all, I should just get your reaction to this news overnight that's come out of the UK that Huawei will be allowed a limited role in 5G in the UK.
Look, I think this is a common sense approach. This is a good result for the UK consumers, and it puts UK consumers first. There's been unprecedented pressure placed upon the UK government by the US on this decision, and I think this has been a fact-based, common sense approach which gives the UK access to the best 5G in the world.
But there is still some doubt. You've only got limited access, so they're not opening the doors completely to you. And you've basically got the whole of the Five Eyes community who are still against you. So in that sense, limited access, do you still claim that as a win? Do you still think that's all right?
Well, yes, we do. We think that's a common sense approach. Look, we understand we are of Chinese heritage, and therefore, even though we're a private company, privately owned by our staff, that the rules are different for us, and that geopolitical elements which are beyond our control are going to play a part in this. So we've always said we want to adhere to the rules set. The UK have now set very good guidelines for us to follow. And also they've had a different approach to the Australian government. They have interacted with us for the last 10 years. They know us probably better than anyone else. We've been independently tested by them over the last 10 years, and so they've been able to come to the conclusion that they can put us into their 5G network safely and securely, but also have the benefit of having a competitive vendor market, which, as we know, if you don't have competitors in that vendor market, costs are going to go up. In Australia, it's going to pay 40% more for our 5G kit than the UK.
Well, the problem, I guess, that most people have is that essentially that Huawei is controlled by China. And that could in itself result in intelligence leaks. So how do you guarantee against cyber interference, bearing in mind that it happened here at the ANU last year?
Well, first of all, we're not controlled by China. We're a separate company.
Well, the owner of the company used to be a member of the PLA.
Yeah, and we publicly said that, but he had left the PLA 5 years before. He was a civil engineer in the PLA, so he built factories. He didn't build sort of telecommunication networks. But that being said, test us, independently test us, verify everything. Don't trust us. And in fact, we say don't trust anyone. These networks are too important to just say, just ban Chinese companies, because it all will be manufactured in China. So, for example, in Australia, our 5G will be manufactured in China with or without Huawei. Nokia and Ericsson, they have factories that are in China. They are half owned by the Chinese government. So the risk is just as great for them as it would be for us. So our view is test everyone, trust no one, and ensure that the equipment that we are putting in is safe and secure. And this is the approach the UK have set.
Well, Meng Wanzhou, so she was arrested for fraud in Canada, and then China arrested 2 Canadians in response. And that sort of triggered a trade row. So what's to stop that from happening here?
Well, look, that's a matter for the Chinese government to answer. And again, we are a separate company. We cannot take responsibility for the actions of the Australian government, the UK government or the Chinese government. We want to be judged on our actions, and we want to be judged on what we do. We understand that we are being a bit of a pawn in a greater game here. So all we can do is say, this is who we are, this is what we've done, judge us on our 16 years here in Australia. Look, I mean, we're the largest provider of 4G networks in Australia, and we've done that safely, securely, without any cybersecurity issue whatsoever. And our argument would be, well, why can't we continue to play a role in 5G? Because if we don't, 3 million Australians, Oxford Economics has said, 3 million Australians, regional and rural Australians mostly, are going to miss out on 5G. And that's what the UK Prime Minister has said. That's the reason why he has wanted us in the UK market.
Well, you do say that you are, or you claim to be a pawn in a greater game, but there are so many legitimate concerns, particularly when it comes to the access of very sensitive infrastructure. Even Kimberley Kitching said a couple of days ago that the vendor cannot offer 100% integrity.
Well, and that's our point. No vendor can. Ericsson, Nokia, Huawei, Samsung. That's why we need to be independently tested. That's why we need to work with governments. No one's got the solution here. Vendors, telecom operators, governments. These critical infrastructures need a holistic approach, and we all need to work together. Now, we are the world leader in 5G. Most of the global standards are based on Huawei's technology and also our R&D. So we want to work with governments to say, this is the future map of 5G, because we are the ones building it, we are the ones designing it. Let's work together to ensure the safety and security of it.
Just quickly, so are you planning on increasing your lobbying now in an attempt to either overturn or modify what Australia's stance is?
Well, it's up to the government to make that decision. I think Malcolm Turnbull, when the decision was made by Malcolm Turnbull, he was out in front by a year and a half to everyone else. I think what we've seen out of the UK is that a more measured approach gets the best results for everyone. So, look, we would welcome any discussions with the government, but they're decisions that the government has to make.
All right.